I would have done things differently now, now that I have grown as a person. But, as in everything else, you learn as you experience life and you become a better person. And I realized along the way, as long as you wake up every day, every morning, and you're a better person and you learn from whatever you did, it's okay. Then you triumph. Then your life is a success.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Dr. Sass, who shares the power of clarity in life. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. Today's quote is from George Bernard Shaw. This is the true joy in life. The being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. The being a force of nature. Instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I think we take too much for granted. 100 years ago, people dreamt of this utopian future where we now live. And what do? Do we dream of another one instead of enjoying the one we have? So much freedom and enjoyment? How clear are you on what you want from life and work? The greater the clarity, the easier life becomes, because you know how to say no. It also becomes more fun because you do what you love instead of what you have to do. I was recently having a conversation with my daughter about my calendar. She said it's so full, and I said yes. And I said, everything on it brings me energy, so it's easy to do. See, it's not work. And it's amazing that I get paid a lot to play and have this much fun. What about you? We're going to chat about this today and about spirituality, which again, you have to find your way and study and learn and test and say, is this really true? And then ask, am I living in congruence with what I said I wanted to do and live? Dr. Sass is a success coach, an author, a podcaster, and a speaker. She specializes in women's empowerment, guiding women to gain clarity in their lives, career, and businesses so they can perform their best while balancing all areas of life. She served in the US Airforce, had many high-level positions in different companies. She's owned 6 different businesses. and is now founder and CEO of Awakened Goddess. She encourages a healthy lifestyle, healing, and self-mastery. For that very reason, she shares her wisdom across all the social media and in her articles. Her constant conversations revolve around peace, love, health, and happiness. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's meet Dr. Sass. Welcome to Richer Soul, Dr. Sass. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you, Rocky. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm excited for the conversation and to be able to learn from you. We always like to start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
Ooh, it was not much at all. I didn't learn about money until I was out on my own. You know, I grew up in Thailand, developing country. I didn't move to the US until I was almost 12. So back then, I just saw my mom work very hard. My grandparents, all my family worked very hard to make ends meet. And there was no conceptualization of what rich or what prosperity means. It was just, we have enough to eat, enough food on the table. That was it. And coming to America, it was an eye opener. I see that people have more, and I started to, my parents didn't know much about money, and even when I went to college, throughout school, I learned econ, economic 101. It's a requirement for my profession as a pharmacist, and didn't really learn much. It was just a supply and demand. And I wish there is so much more wealth, knowledge, training in school for kids, learning how to save, learning how to invest, learning what credit card is. I learned that the hard way, using credit cards the wrong way, and building businesses. And it was many years later that I kind of found the education outside of the mainstream. It's through becoming an entrepreneur. That's where I learned about money.
And even then, many entrepreneurs don't learn about money until well into their business.
That is so true.
They struggle in business because it's the same thing. They weren't taught money in school. And, a lot of people open a business and they don't look at the financials. And so it's a struggle. And they're people too. And so they carry the same money scripts.
Exactly. And that's how I learned. I mean, making a lot of mistakes. I went and opened my own business and make zero mistake before I learned about money, and still learning. And there's so much more.
That there is. What was the biggest surprise when you came to America?
The biggest surprise, there's a lot of surprises. And for me, it was more than anything, a culture shock. Because in Thailand, people are more, like in school, they are more reserved, more, they don't voice their opinion as much, especially kids, especially women. So coming here, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in a zoo. But it was in a good way. It was first a shock, and then it was just like a liberation. It's like you can literally wear anything to school. We have to wear uniform, and you can speak your mind. It's freedom of speech. So it's in a good way. I love this country.
Now, you have an interesting childhood because you started meditating at a very young age, correct?
Yes. Even before I can remember, I was meditating. My great uncle was a spiritual healer, and my sibling and I, we would go over to his sanctuary, his place, his house where people gather, and we just start meditating. And I probably 3, 4, 5 years old. And I was sitting cross-legged, meditate for hours. And it would be me and my sister who would stay in meditative state longer than adults. And we're just, I don't know, we're different, definitely different from other kids in the neighborhood.
I was going to say, because most parents would be thrilled if their kid would sit for 10 minutes quietly.
I don't know. We just grew up that way. And I think we were exposed to that type of environment because my mom divorced from my dad when I was just a baby. So I was placed in the care of, other extended family. And I just end up, at my great uncle's house a lot of times and just being surrounded by that spirituality. I think it kept me grounded and, kept me out of trouble. So it was a good time.
Did you continue that your whole life? Do you still do that?
I'm doing it now. Moving to America kind of yanked me from that environment. I was placed into, we go to church here once I moved to America. So it was a different type of spirituality and not understanding the language, the culture. I pretty much lost it for a long time. I started going back when being spiritual again when I got divorced back in 2008. That when I start separating from my ex-husband and getting divorced, and I search for for some peace of mind, and it's like, am I a failure? Why is this happening to me? And you become a victim. And I was like, I am no victim. So I searched for comfort in a church, and after that, I start questioning a lot of stuff. So I listen to everything I got my hands on. I watch everything. I read everything. Spirituality. I became a Reiki, professional, and I administer Reiki as an energy healer. And and now I meditate every day. I still continue my spiritual journey. I think as a being, as a human being, you always in search for your true self. And until you get to the point where you know that we are one, that there's no other people out there, It's just you. It's just a different aspect of you. And then when you get to that point, you're still trying to connect the dot and experience that oneness, mentally, intellectually, but spiritually, you still need to connect. That's why I do meditation every day.
Can we dig into that a little bit more? Because I want to make sure I understood you correctly. You're saying there's no people out there. We're all one.
We are one. Yes. We are on one consciousness. Think about God as one consciousness. And God is energy, right? And energy is all that is the I am. And the I am split off into different beings having different experiences from different aspects. And that's what we are, the different aspect of God. And that's why, when you read the Bible, right, God said, I am, and he left it as that. I am what I am. And when you look into different religion, there's always an initial beginning, right? The Orion, the connection between earth and heaven, and people want to get through that. And, there's always some connection that the God that we're talking about is just the one God. And that's us. That's just oneness.
I knew that's what you were going to say. I wanted you to give it clarity for everyone else to understand, because I think for a lot of people, that's, you all here in the Christian church, we are all one body of the church, but I don't think people take that next step, right? Because even if you go back to what Jesus said, number one rule, treat your neighbor as yourself. It's part of that oneness, but I think most people struggle with that. I don't know that that's even thought that way throughout a lot of the church.
No, I think the church and all the religions have different aspect of the truth, right? They have part of the truth, and the preachers and the leaders of the religion, they do their best to decipher what is written in the Bible or in the Quran or in whatever text you look at from religious point of view. And there are many missing parts, and there are many translations later that human misinterpreted or didn't quite get. And for me, I grew up as a Buddhist, and I was exposed to a lot of non-traditional Buddhists because my great uncle as a healer, and then I also grew up in Christian school. Luckily my aunt was, moved here to US, and she sent money to us to Thailand, and we were able to attend Christian school. So, I go home and go to the Buddhist monastery, the temple, and then I go to school, and we go to church in the morning before class. For me, it wasn't confusing, but it was just like, it's opened my mind to how people worship differently, and it's okay. And I go to church, and it's like, I believe in Jesus, I believe in God. And I go home, and I was like, my grandparents, my mom, my family, they are good people, and they're not going to go to hell because they don't know about Jesus and God. and this is what carried me through life, and that's what opened my mind to different spiritual teachings. And I believe all religions are good. They are teaching people to be good, but they are just one aspect of the truth. And if you want to know the real spirituality, you need to open up your mind to learn many teachings. And that's just how it is. I can't explain any other way. You have to think outside the box and listen to different things. You can't just, take what people told you and take it as the truth. I say, go out and explore and see what is your truth.
And I think a lot of it is confusing. I've been listening recently to Hebrew as far as, looking at the way that they interpret the Torah and so forth. And I didn't realize, and I guess it's really true, because the Bible wasn't written in English. The amount of linguistics that we don't necessarily understand and what the original meanings were. And so I think there's a lot of it, even if you read it, there's a lot of context missing. And until you get that, I think you miss a lot. And that's what I'm trying to do is learn the rest of the context that is around it and what the actual meaning are. And I think when you take the time to dig in, you get that more open nature of starting to understand what that all is. So you started out in this background. How did you end up in pharmacy school?
It wasn't any fancy plan. I went to college, and I was good at math, and I was good at science. The language was still quite a challenge when I, went to college. So I chose pharmacy because, math and science. And little that I know, it also involved a lot of English. I struggle with therapeutics because, a lot of language, explaining what diseases are about and stuff. I chose that just because I want to help people. And pharmacy is one avenue. And the job market was good.
Knowing what you know now, what do you think about drugs and America's relationship with pills?
Oh my gosh. A lot of pharmacists not gonna like my comment because knowing what I know, we need drugs. We need certain medication. If you go out there, get hit by a car, you have a broken bone, you have some debilitating disease, you need medical attention, you need medication, you need morphine, you need all those stuff. But I think the way we live, we depend too much on medication. A lot of diseases, we create diseases from medication. And we train our people to depend on drugs, to depend on pharmaceutical. It stems from, the movies, from what we learn from school, from the food that is provided in this country, and from the health care that the government will pay for. I get better health care paying out pocket, going get massages so that, I can relax and my body will stop releasing all this stress hormone. And all this preventative health care, the supplement, the good nutritious food is better than, the toxic chemical that we put in ourselves. And, that's why I really stepped down with my pharmacy profession. I left it completely because I don't believe in it 100%. I believe in part of it. We do need medical care. We do need medication to a certain point. I don't think we need cholesterol medication. I think statin is the worst thing that people created. I don't think we need any medication for diabetes. People need to send to the nutrition rehab where they can learn to eat, where they can learn to cook for themselves, where they can learn to exercise, and they can learn to meditate. It is the whole person. And we're treating pharmaceutical field is treating a human being as a thing and not a being. We are a human being. We're not a thing. We're not just receptor and, and that's it. You take a medication and you look for a receptor to fix something that take more than one to take care of. So I believe in whole health. I believe in mind, body, and spirit. And nutrition, goes a long way. Go take a walk. Sunlight helps you. If you suffer from depression, go sit in the sun. It helps. I do that. I take breaks every hour and just go sit in the sun.
It's funny because the diabetes medicines and the statin medicines, they're indications. The first line is following diet and exercise regimen changes. That's the first line. You're supposed to go fix your diet and exercise before you take the medications. Everyone's like, give me a pill and I can go to McDonald's. And that's the culture that we have built, unfortunately. And people want the easy way out, and the easy way out doesn't always work because all of those medicines do have side effects and reactions, and you have to be aware of that. So whatever you can do to live a healthier life, I think, is definitely the first step. And as you said, we do not have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system. It's designed for sick people. It's not designed to keep you healthy and to focus on that. So you also joined the Air Force. What was that all about?
I'm very grateful for this country and for the opportunity that I received from just being a citizen of the United States. I know a lot of us, U.S. citizens, take it for granted, and we, bitch and complain about little things. But, we're still the greatest country in the world. We're not without flaw, definitely, but we're still the greatest country. I just want to give back. I with all my being, I was like, that's all I want to do. Is after I graduated from college, aside from want to explore other, states and around the country, I just want to give back, and that's the one way that I know how is to serve.
Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
So what happened next? You go into the Air Force, you left the Air Force, you kind of changed direction of your life a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of got married. I got out. I would have stayed longer, but I got out because I got married, and, I don't want my ex-husband, my husband at the time, to give up his career because I'm just dragging him with me. We move every couple of years being in the military. So I gave that up. It was at the same time for myself, because I'm kind of back then very OCD. I'm like a perfectionist, and being in charge of everything, and I want to put my hands in everything, and it was stressful. You are in the leadership role, and you need to set example, and everything in your life need to be excellent, And I was very hard on myself, so I was going through a lot of stress. My body react to it. I have reflux and stuff like that. So after I got out, it's actually gotten better. So I, work in a hospital and become a hospital pharmacist, doing clinicals, taking care of patients, talk to physician, make recommendations, the whole 9 yards. And it was fun until I got introduced to entrepreneurship. And it was, everything changed from them. I realized that, we, as a woman too, living in any society, even in the US, you become what society define you. Women or men or people in general try to do more to prove to the society that they are enough. And I realized that that's what I was doing. I was following this, so-called American dream, the society definition of what success is about. You go to college, you get a degree, you get married, you have 2 kids, and you have a White House with a picket fence, and that's your dream. And then you work until you in 60 some years old, retired, and it's like a fairy tale life, right? But it wasn't like that for me. I wasn't happy in my marriage, and through my entrepreneurship, I learned a lot of personal. I got my hands into a lot of personal development, so I grew as a person, and I realized I was this way, growing in the opposite direction. My ex-husband was staying the same. He's not a bad person. It just, we grew in a separate direction. I was growing as a human being, as a being. I was seeing the world from a different lens of eyes, and he wasn't. And then that's when we got a divorce, and I become a single mom. It wasn't a good time for me or for my kids or for my ex-husband, because we didn't know what to do, and we just react. I would have done things differently now, now that I have grown as a person. But, as in everything else, you learn as you experience life and you become a better person. And I realized along the way, as long as you wake up every day, every morning, and you're a better person and you learn from whatever you did, it's okay. Then you triumph. Then your life is a success.
And that it is. And, I find it funny that when you go to any of these self-development programs,
mm-hmm.
if you look around the room, I would bet 80 to 90% of people there are business owners.
Probably.
Compared to either that or their C-suite.
Mm-hmm.
It's the rest of the people don't seem to go to those types of programs.
I don't think they see it. And it's not that is bad, because people are at different stages in their life. And I think more and more people are awakening to their potential. They realize that there is more out there than what we were trained to do, to be. I think the school system taught us to be the worker bees because they need the worker bees. I mean, if everybody become an entrepreneur, business owners, then who are we going to hire? I mean, I think moving the society in that direction, which I believe we are anyway, is good. I mean, the people who are working as a worker bee actually are the apprentice, right? They are learning to be the leaders, but they still have the mindset of the entrepreneur, of the people who are more awake and realize that there are more to life than just getting up every day, going to work the 9 to 5, and then that's it. There's more to that. You can really design your life. If you want to be a scientist and discover, great things, discover AI. That's the big thing right now. Discover the new treatment for diseases, then it's fine. But if you want to travel the world and just be a gypsy, a nomad, then that is fine too. And I think that is what people don't realize, that whatever you love to do, whatever you want to be, you can be. You just need to figure out how to design your life to get to that life that you want. And that's what's missing in school.
No, they don't teach you how to design your life. They put you on a track and say, go do this.
Exactly.
Today's episode is sponsored by Profit Answer Man Podcast. Did you know that most small business owners hate looking at their financials? It's one reason they may struggle with business success. The Profit Answer Man podcast helps them ensure they are profitable and can pay their employees and weather the storms we all have to face. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. And so that's what you do these days, correct? You work mostly, I guess, with women, helping them create and get clear on a vision of who they want to be.
Exactly. And I work with a lot of healthcare professionals because I just relate with them really well. I was one of them. And, but I work with all entrepreneurs, people who want clarity in their life. They just feel like they're stuck. They get antsy. They, just get burned out. don't like their job anymore or don't have that fire that fuel the flame that they used to have, right? We go into our job just graduating from college. We're just so excited, happy, and going into it. And a few years later, you lose that desire because of whatever the environment that you're in. And I just want to empower everyone out there and let them realize that if they are not waking up happy doing what they do, then they have the power to change that. And if they want to stay in their same profession, they still want to be a pharmacist, a doctor, a nurse, engineer, or whatever that they want to be, they can still be that, and they can change their environment. They can change the way they work. They can go teach. They can change their job. They are not stuck. And that's what I'm here to help people get clarity on, to create that vision of the life that they want.
How long does it take someone to get clear on their vision?
It depends on the person, really. And, it could take you a few months. It can take you a year. But as the sooner that you start on your journey, the better. Because every day, literally, I'm still on my journey. I think we all are. And until we go to our grave, we get up every day and we do our things for a few years. And then we wake up one day and we're like, I feel like I want to pivot a little bit. And we all have that. And it's okay. And I believe the best thing for anyone to do is just to start. It may take you a week. It may take you a month. It may take you 3 months. But with my experiences, it will take you at least 3 months to get to the next step, to get really clear on what your next step is, whether you want to stay where you're at, whether you want to change your job, change your career, or start a business, or just sell everything and just pick up and move. And, that's your life. You get to choose that.
It is your life. You get to choose it, but you have to choose.
You have to choose. If you choose to stay and, you shouldn't complain because you chose to stay. If you live in this country, in the United States of America, you have a choice. You can, scale down. You don't have to eat out. You can make a plan. And this is what I help people do. Once you're clear on what you want your life to be, then you make a plan. There are institutions out there that you can take loans, that you can work while you create your business. That's what I did. And that's what my son is doing right now. He's working at Bojangles and, saving all his money. He wants to travel, but at the same time, he also wants to be an entrepreneur. Thanks to his mom, he's writing series of books, and I encourage him to do that. I go, if you don't want to go to college, you don't have to. You're smart enough. The education doesn't end at high school, and education doesn't need to be continued to college. There are many different ways you can get education, and it's just unlimited, especially in this day and age with the technology that we have.
And that's true. And even if you want a college type of education, there are many programs that allow you to take courses from the Ivy League schools for free. You can listen to the lectures. You can do the programs. You can learn on your own. You don't need to sit in the classroom and to do that. And it changes the focus of how you learn, because then you learn for the sake of learning, not for the sake of, oh, I was told. Because if you go to college, you're told you have to take all of these classes. You have to do all of this, and you can pick from these 6, and maybe it's a good professor, maybe it's bad. You don't know. But when you take the freedom and you take ownership, then you have a lot more ability to do that. And if you're starting your own business, then the piece of paper is useless. You can use the $200,000 to start the business instead of making the college wealthy.
Exactly. And I think you used the correct word a while ago. You said you have to take ownership, and that's the key. And if you want to create your own life, you have to take the ownership. And if the ownership is, sitting in front of the PC and learn the lecture, then you have to be disciplined enough to show up for yourself, to show up for your future, to show up for the life that you chose.
Can people figure this all out on their own, or do they need help?
Some people can figure it out on their own. It takes time. And with the help of a coach or a mentor, I say, people work with me so that I can shorten the time for them to get there. And definitely anybody, if you have the tenacity, if you have the will, if you have the want to reach that on your own, yes, you can. You can. It may take you 10 years, 20 years. I don't know. It really depends on the person and what route, which rabbit hole you get sucked into, right? And being an entrepreneur, there is a lot of shiny objects, and people will come and they will pitch and they will say, come and join this team, join that team, buy this course. And you really have to know who you are, what your vision is, what your mission is, being solid, being very clear of which direction you want to go to avoid those rabbit holes and those shiny objects, which, gonna suck your time away from your life pretty much.
And that's very true. And it is very true. Once you get into that world, everybody's selling everything. Everyone's got a magic pill, a magic way to do this. More often than not, the information is all the same. It's presented in different ways. Certain people have unique takes. But at the end of the day, you have to do the work. You have to sit down. And, I find it funny, but some people are scared at actually sitting down and creating a plan for their life or figuring out their vision. I don't know why. It's never seemed scary to me, but to a lot of people, it is. I don't know if you found the same thing.
Yeah, I found the same thing. Fear is in a lot of people, and it has to do with our upbringings. It has to do with the culture. It has to do with our belief system. And that's why it's so great. If you don't hire a coach, then hang out with people with that mindset, because their mindset will eventually, you will absorb it. I absorb it. It took me quite a while until I found a mentor that I realized, oh my gosh, if I would find my mentor a long time ago, I would have shortened my journey here. But I don't regret anything because of what I've been through. It helped me help people who were in my spot way back then.
I know you focused a lot in the healthcare industry. And I think for people in healthcare, one of the biggest struggles is a lot of them made a decision at 18 to go into healthcare, whether they went into nursing school or they went to pharmacy or they go to pre-med and then on to med. And then 7-8 years go by, they get all their training and then they finally start practicing. And they get to meet what most patients are like. And then they get to meet what most hospital administrators are like. The healthcare landscape has dramatically shifted, I would say, in the last 20 years. It used to be all private practice, or a large percentage private practice. I know in our area, finding a private practice is very difficult. Everyone now works for a system. I call it Walmart medicine. They're all working for a corporate. they're all stuck and they've been on this one track that they can't even see that there might be other opportunities for them. What do you have to say to them?
Yeah, it is unfortunate that healthcare had become this way. A lot of us went into healthcare because we want to help people. And when we arrive, we cannot help the way we want to help. And we get frustrated. And it's okay if you're happy in your job, but if you found yourself frustrated and feeling like you're unfulfilled in your profession, there is a way out. You know, you talk about my brother and my sister, they both are physicians, and they used to own their private practice, and they have to give up their private practice because it's just way too expensive to compete with, the big entities. And unfortunately, we set up our healthcare to be that way. It's so complicated. There's so many moving parts that you cannot practice healthcare the way you want to. And if you find yourself in that situation, I mean, we need doctors, we need nurses, we need pharmacists who still practice in the field, of course. But I'm talking to the one who are unhappy. And when you are unhappy, doesn't matter what job field you're in, you're not serving anybody. You bring in all those negativity into your workplace, and it affects your health, it affects your relationships, it affects your life, it affects who you think you are. And that's when you lose yourself. And in order to rediscover yourself again, you need to find your identity, your true identity, and what you really want out of life. And if the big institution is not for you anymore, you still can find a way out. You can use what you know to build your own business, to pivot and go a different route, different, more holistic type of medicine, for example.
And I know you're talking about healthcare, but I don't think it matters what area they're in because it's all the same, right? They might be in or out of healthcare. They all have the same issues. I know a lot of people aren't thrilled with the work environments they're in. And so then it's a question of do something about it. How long does it take from the time a person says, okay, I want to raise my hand, I want to do something, till they actually find a new way forward?
Yeah, I believe to find clarity through my program anyway, I work with them, and it depends on the person. It will take you at least 3 months to find that clarity and say, yep, I want to change job. Yep, I want to quit my job, sell my house, and move to Hawaii or something like that. But it takes you because this is you. You want to take the time to reflect and really create something that is solid. It is something that you will wake up and you just jumping up in joy because this is your life. And I give my client that luxury of reflection on the time that they have. And if you will build your business, I would say anywhere between 12 months to 18 months. Depends on your mindset, depending on where you're at, depending on what we need to work on. But there's literally, you can go from zero to owning your business and, earning the income that replace your income within 12 to 16 months, or 18 months, sorry.
And I guess it depends on the business and what they're doing. I know starting a business and building a business is not easy. And for most people, it does take a few years to go from beginning to having good revenue. Now, some people are lucky they have a connection that brings in revenue day one. But if you have to go out and find revenue, it's not surprising that you need 3 years of runway to get yourself going. And so you got to plan for that and figure it out.
Yeah. And we really go, I mean, I'm not like trying to say, come to me for advice, but there are many good business advisor out there. And it's not the mainstream, it's not like the business bureau that you go to. It's people who actually in the trenches and giving advice from their experience. And for me, if you go out on your own and don't find a community, don't find a business mentor, then it may take you a few years if you would ever get to the point where you actually creating income. I know there's a lot of entrepreneur out there that's not creating any income. And, there's a lot of noises out there. And that's why I say, stick to what you want to do and be very focused on what you want. Be very clear on what you want. And the first step on getting your identity, getting clear on your vision, getting clear on what you want out of life is very, very critical. That's why I said it takes probably a good 3 months at least to get to that point. And even that, after that, you still getting clear as you develop your business. And that's why it's good to have someone who's been through it before to talk you through it. So it will shorten the time for you to get that success.
And that's
it's just a fact, right?
It is. You have to pick the right person for you. And that's a big part of it. There's, as we talked about before, there's so much noise out there.
There's so much noise, and it really depends on what industry you are in, and like you say, Rocky, what personality you connect with, and if you hate your coach's guts and you're not aligned with their values, then it's going to be a hard road for you. But I definitely pick somebody, even online for free, YouTube, whatever. There are so many information out there, but you need to first stay very focused and be clear on who you are before you pick that person that you want to follow.
And I think that's a problem. A lot of people, again, they get stuck on a different track. I want to own a business. They don't take business would best serve them and what would be the best business model for them. So they continue to do the next problem, right?
Yeah.
They jump from one to the next. And so
jump from one to the next.
Yes.
Until you get that clarity. That's why it's important to get clarity first. I kind of work backward. That's why this is a very, for me, an important work and something that I want to contribute to all the entrepreneurs out there, because I've been there. I make that mistake. I jump the cliff without knowing what's in the bottom, right? And, I had my good days. I had days when, with my first business, like, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago, I made 100, 200 grand a day. And, I was lucky. But then you get to the point where you're not clear where your vision is. And then this thing come in, that thing come in. And then your business break down because you're not clear. And then that's when you lose money. And you don't want to get to that route. You want to avoid those pitfalls as much as possible. And, sometimes it's unavoidable, but you want to make the fall as, less painful as possible.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. Get clarity, and then everything else becomes easier. It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
My secret to living an abundant life is to know who you are, is to connect your true self, your inner self. People call that your higher self, but it is you, the infinite wisdom that all of us have. And we search and search and search for the answer. And all we have to do is go inward. And when you get that answer from within, and that's abundance, and that's peace.
And it's found within. Too many people are chasing someone else's dreams instead of their own.
Yeah.
What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
That we are all one, to be more compassionate, to be less judgmental. I wish I would have learned that. And I thought growing up, being so spiritual, being like quote unquote good person, that I was non-judgmental. I wasn't. I was very judgmental, and most religious people are. And I wish I would have known that the person standing in front of me, the person that doing the bad deed, is me looking at myself in the mirror. And the only thing I have to do for that person is forgive. And that's what I do for myself, is forgive.
Very deep. If you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
Do the things that bring you joy. Listen to that inner voice. And if whatever you do bring you joy, then you follow your passion. And then you live your life with a purpose.
Great advice. At 18, we don't always know what that is. Sometimes it takes us a decade to figure it out.
Exactly. It takes us a while. I've been drilling this in my kids' head ever since they were young, and I don't think they ever get it. My 19-year-old, I think he finally get a little bit of it, but it does take time. And just be patient with yourself. If you're 18-year-old, even if you're 50, be patient with yourself. You're doing the best you can. And like I said earlier, if you wake up, the next morning, you become a better person, then you triumph. Don't be too hard on yourself.
I like it. If people would like to learn more about you and your services, what can they go?
The best place that stay the same is, and it's easy to remember, is www.drsas.us. And it's not .com, it's .us. And I have my my LinkedIn, my podcast linked on there, my YouTube channel links. All the links are on there. So if you would just go to my website, you'll get the most updated information.
And we'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Rocky, for having me. It's been fun talking to you. I can talk about this all day long.
I think we take living in America for granted. I was out of the country earlier this year, which helps to remind me how the rest of the world lives. It's not like us. What did you think of Dr. Sass's view on spirituality? Something to explore and think about? We always talk about having clarity. And once it's front and center, if you struggle, then that's when you get help from someone who resonates with you on the topic, or who's walked ahead of you, or who is where you want to go. I do that all the time. Let's face it, we get one life. Live it well, live it on your terms. Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, you know someone else who would you mind sharing it with them? Or share it wherever you typically share podcasts. I'd appreciate that. Next week, we've got Michael Westover. We're going to talk about his book, Creating a Worthwhile Life. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.